Boys, how are you all doing?
Good, bro.
Boys,
Sorry. I'm just laughing. We just had to do the start again because MT couldn't get the first word.
I couldn't
Oh,
even say, boys, how are you all doing? It just
yeah,
didn't come out right, so
right,
it's start
right,
again.
bro.
How are we all doing?
good man.
You
Doing
good?
great, man.
What did you hold up in that thumbnail, Scotty? What was it?
A pair of breadth calipers. So use them if you're doing an anthropometric assessment, measuring some bone landmarks. It just gives you a reading.
There you
It's
go.
very rare that you would use them, but you technically when you do your Isaac course, they teach you how to take breaths. But I think it's only really like the Germans and the Chinese that use them in lots of like young talent identification sort of stuff. So, but anyway, I personally never take them on athletes, but I've got them from the kit that I have. So.
Oh, nice.
And you were
But
holding, you were talking
what
about.
I was going to ask is, what is in your photo?
What was I holding? So
Yeah.
I was holding a frame that MG gave me. Here it is again. And it's photos of,
Look at that head of hair on that man.
yeah, MG's got some hair there for sure. Um, and it's a photo that he gave me when he asked if I'd be one of his groomsmen, right? And what's so funny about that is because I unwrapped it and he gave it to me, and I think either it was on the paper or it was stuck on it or something and said, "Would you be my groomsman?" But I was so amazed by the frame. I was like, "Oh, bro, that's a sick present. Thanks, man." And he's just looking at me like,
Come on, man.
"Have you not read the
Read the thing, man.
question?
Read the thing.
Read the thing, man." I'm just like, "So, oh, that's so nice. Like, look at the frame. They're really nice photos." And he was looking at me, and then when I read the bit, it's like, "Oh, thanks. Oh, yes, of course, bro. Thank you so much. So honored." So, and that was at the old Mama Lena's too, wasn't it? We did.
Yeah, I forgot that we used to go
It
there.
was. Yeah. No, it was, so
Good
yeah,
old.
that frame is hanging in my walking wardrobe, so I see it every morning.
Thanks, bro. I
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah. Um, all right, let's get stuck into some questions because we've got a fair bit. Uh, the first one is it's about us. If you had to marry one of your co-hosts, who would you and why?
it. Oh, that's a great question.
You want to start, MG?
Uh, Yeah, I'm weighing up. There's like obviously you're both beautiful humans, and you both have lots of positives. I'm just trying to think what I want to get out of the relationship. Scotty, you're
Rip the
dieted.
band-aid off, bro.
Yeah,
Rip
all
it
right,
off.
you're dieted down, so your libido's low. So sexually, you're not going to give me anything. So equally, MT, he does have the spatula and pan,
Yeah.
um, and you're both very clean, so that's a positive for both of you. Scotty, you got kids, MT don't, so maybe that might be the way I go. Just because I'm gonna marry MT because he'll be more sexually active at the moment than Scotty would, and equally, I have stayed at MT's house before, so I'm gonna go with that.
And you've been into my bedroom. You've passed the threshold.
Oh, I've got a photo. I'm in your wardrobe.
Yeah, it's true. You're actually in my wardrobe.
I'm in your wardrobe, so
Yeah,
like it's a start.
you know what you're going to get. You haven't seen my bedroom. You don't.
Yeah.
100%, man.
What about you, Scotty?
We'll have to change that, bro.
Yeah.
What about you, Scotty?
Oh, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
Good starter. It's a good starter.
It's hard because I've stayed with MG, so I feel like we would be married very well. We had dinner very well, watched some TV. Um, but again, I do like MT. You're a man that's very, very like you have things the way they are. You're very clean. You're very handsome. I do like a beard. You've got hair, and he doesn't have hair on his head.
And equally, remember this: you can go to like a different state with MT, and you just get a car delivered to you.
Yeah,
You don't
true.
have to
Yeah,
drive around.
got
It's got
family up
market
in
connections, it's got
Queensland. I like
market connections
Queensland.
everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say just for a little bit of variation because I've stayed with MG before. I reckon I might marry MT.
Yeah, well, you seem to be the popular one, bro.
I'm gonna go similar to what Scotty said because I think Scotty and I are very, very similar. So like when you marry someone, you spend a lot of time with them, right? You spend
Hmm.
a household with them, all that kind of stuff. So it'd probably be Scotty. But if I was to have a boyfriend, it'd be MG because MG's like fun. He's exciting. He's full of energy. He's out there.
Yeah.
He's like,
If things didn't work out, you would still get a good, you've got
yeah,
a,
yeah. We'd have a lot of fun, MG and I,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Um, that's a good question. Actually, on that similar topic,
Strange question.
on a similar topic, Scotty, is it true that you lose body fat on your finger during prep? And then there is an emoji of a ring. And I'm going to assume the person that asked this has a relationship with you and it rhymes with knife.
Yes. Yes. Apparently you do lose some body fat percentage. For all those that are probably wondering where this is going, this is definitely my wife that's asked this question. So I don't have my wedding ring at the moment. When I start to get pretty lean, my fingers obviously get a bit leaner as well. It's colder and it had been falling off a bit. And she did say to me, I'm not typically someone who loses anything. If I take something off, I put it in the same spot. But I'm pretty sure when I was mowing the lawns or doing some gardening that I would have just flicked my hand for whatever, and my ring has been misplaced.
You still got it, right?
No, it's gone, man. I don't know. It's gone. I've lost it.
He's having a dig, bro.
It's gone.
Go,
No.
Jen.
Yeah, bro. Like my wedding, I've lost my wedding ring. So we're actually going to the city. It's Jenny's birthday on Friday. We're going to the city. Our jeweler, he's going to make me a new ring.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. So literally, like when I would train, I take it off. I literally stick it on the exact same spot on my desk, which I did. I came home, and then the only thing that I did that day that I wouldn't normally do is I mowed the lawns with Harvey, and I was helping him tip the bin, all of the grass into the bin. And I have a feeling that's where it may have gone when I was coming off. And I knew I should have known because the day before I was in the gym and I'd washed my hands and I was drying my hands, my ring just flung off. And I was like, fuck, I should probably.
Oh, yeah.
So it's gone.
Oh no.
That's why I
You want
never.
me and MT? You want me and MT to get you a commitment ring, like a friendship commitment ring?
I'm going to get you a mood ring. Remember those?
Mood ring.
Hmm.
No,
It
They
used to
change the
change
color
colour.
based on how you're feeling.
Yeah, the color changes based on how you're feeling. Yeah.
I've never worn jewelry until I got married, and even my ring tan is kind of like gone now. It's been like 4 or 5 weeks.
Wow. Okay. Keep
Yeah,
us posted on how that goes.
I'm going to get it. He's going to make me a new ring on Friday.
Maybe that can be the next thumbnail, is you putting the ring on and showing it.
I will. I'll bring it in. But equally, I'm going to get it made so it's tight on this finger. So in summer and when I get back to being a little cuddlier, it'll never be able to come off.
Yeah, good.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. How can I have all three of you as my coach?
Come to the Bali retreat.
Yeah. You're too much.
Well, maybe there's little bits of all of us that you perhaps would like as part of the coaching service. So just identify which bits you want out of which person,
Yeah.
and we'll each do that job for you.
I
So
reckon
MT will do all the programming, Scotty does all the strategy, and I'll do the check-in.
yeah. I reckon just ask 1,000 questions to the podcast, and that's the best way to get coaching from us.
It costs you nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one about us, I'll leave it here, but updates on all our current phases. So obviously, Scotty, prep, how's it all going?
It's going good, man. It's just business as usual. Yeah, not much to report. I had a new low weight. I was 84.95 yesterday morning.
84.9. Wow, okay. Under the 85s.
Yeah. So, and I reckon I'm going to have to suck down to maybe 83,
Hang on, as your final weight?
just below 83, I reckon, as in the
Yeah.
lower weight. And then we'll see how we go because at that stage now where I'm not looking at bigger drops. And I want to hold on to obviously as much tissue as I can. So I think there's probably around about maybe 2.5, 3 kilos to go.
Okay. Wow, it's not long. Not much to go. We always know those last
Well,
kgs
it's still
take
pretty
longer.
long, but it's
Yeah.
equally like full transparency. It's probably been because if a few people have DM'd asking like, how are you feeling? You don't post much on social media, blah, blah. But last week's probably the first week I've started to notice, and I would honestly say that I'm starting to feel the suck a bit in terms of just feeling tired all the time, things I wouldn't normally like, even though I don't voice them, but just a little bit more irritable, not feeling amazing all the time like I usually would. And so
Yeah.
that's also how I know that I'm starting to get closer once I start to hit that sort of point.
Yeah. What about you, MG? What's your current phase? How's everything going?
Yeah, and this is probably the first. So I think I dropped over a kilo this week, which was good. This is the first time, honestly, since the start, I feel like I can see compositional changes. Um, there was definitely things happening, but I just feel like it takes 2 or 3 weeks to be able to like actually notice any different visibly. Still feeling good. Energy's high. Actually, not yesterday, the day before, I gonna have the best session I've had in this block. It was a pool session. It was fucking awesome. Overloaded everything this week, so strength or high hunger's probably creeping up to a 2 or 3 out of 5 first time, which is nice. I'm still satiated, so I'm still 4s and 5s for like finishing a meal and being fine, and I'm not living meal to meal, but I'm definitely starting to get hungry, which is good. So I reckon the next 2 weeks are going to be dynamite. I had a low this week of 90.4.
Wow. So how long have you been doing it, and how many kgs have you lost?
I started at 95.8, so 5.4 kilos down, and I reckon we're going to run another 3 kilos probably.
And how long have you been dieting?
6 weeks.
So, okay, a kilo a week.
Yeah, maybe 6 weeks, and I reckon we might end up somewhere around maybe like 86, finish there, something like that. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And you?
Me, so what am I ticking over close to 95 kg now?
He's a big,
Look, I
juicy
don't know,
man.
like, obviously, Scotty, you know all the details, but
Mhm.
you tell me whether you've seen this with other people before. But with me, as you know, is since comp October coming out, how many calorie adjustments have I had? Two, three, maybe? Not many. It's like my weight just like slowly over time decides to come up, then it plateaus and stays there for a little bit, then it'll jump and plateau for a little bit, then it'll
Mhm.
jump and plateau. Do you find that with anyone else?
Everyone's different. I think everyone acclimates to their energy environment. I mean, there's lots of different things that I guess can get rid of that. Sorry, I thought I turned these off. There's lots of different things that can contribute to that, but you're just someone that typically, like if we make an adjustment, we'll see an acute response, and then you kind of just settle in, and that could just be as a result of more energy going in, greater perceived energy availability, and so you may be miscellaneously moving more. You might be like, oh, it's a nice day today. I'm going to go and move some, dirt or do some gardening, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
you're pretty steady and pretty consistent, and I think it's going to be very similar in the sense where when you're coming back down, you'll probably see a rapid drop, and then you'll probably coast, and we'll need to make another one. But I think you're just ticking over really nicely. I think we've done a pretty good job getting you to where you are. You've definitely added some new tissue. We showed that with your back shots,
Mhm.
and that was something that we know last time you probably lost a bit of that tissue on the way down last time.
Yeah.
But we're placed pretty well. Off the top of my head, I can't remember when did you have a cleanup phase coming up soon?
We're going to push it for another 8 weeks.
That's right. You got a gaining phase coming up, I think, don't
Yeah,
you? Yeah.
maintaining after that. Yeah.
Yeah. So hold that tissue and then hang out there for a bit and then tidy things up. And then your pre-prep phase, I think it's similar or maybe a few weeks out from when MG's is because you guys are both doing season B next year.
Yeah.
So is your pre-prep phase, again, off the top of my head, I can't remember, is it October or November that you start?
Ooh, I think it was November. I
Okay.
think.
I think you're a bit earlier, aren't you, MG?
Exactly, in 10 seconds. I have it right here.
Yeah.
Typically, I would say that because he's run his tidy up phase earlier, so then he's got some runway to be able to go again,
Hmm.
and then coast into to that
12th of November.
November, yeah. So
Yeah.
it'll give or take around that time. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, how are you feeling? Are you enjoying where you're at? Like, would you say performance wise, you're training well? I mean, each week in the spreadsheet, numbers are going up. You're doing things in the gym
Yeah. Like,
that definitely weren't doing 6 months ago.
no, no, no. Like, as we said in the other podcast, like training in the off season is so much more fun. Like, you have so much more energy. You lift numbers that you've never lifted before. You can actually feel a pump. So training is really, really enjoyable. Like, really loving training at the moment, you know. there's sometimes you dread some lifts that you would dread in comp prep, and in the off season you not dread them at all. Like you're just like, yeah, bring it on. I'm gonna PB this one this time round, and then next time around you hit a PB again, and just yeah, training's the best in the off season. It's absolutely awesome. I was actually talking to some people at the gym today. That one was they're both competitors. One was my client. I just said, yeah, off season training is so fun. Like see your body as now a performance body, as a performance, like, look at your body and be like, this body's built for performance now. It's built for strength. It's built to build muscle, not as an aesthetic physique. Aesthetic physique is for comp prep, right? Now it's all about having a performance-based physique. And that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Good analogy, man.
Definitely. Whilst we're on that topic, someone asked a question and I want to find it. But it was, how do you know your maintenance how do you know when you meet your maintenance calorie in the off season? Where is it? So many questions.
What, just how to gauge when maybe it's time to make a change or change food?
How can you tell when you've reached your new maintenance calories when you're reversing out of prep? So you're reversing out. How do you know when you've reached a new maintenance?
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen very regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest indicator is probably a plateau in weight, but not just like a 1-day plateau, right? I think this is where people get a bit confused. Like, oh my God, my weight's the same 2 days in a row. I mean, I think all of us use 7-day averages, and equally, maybe just 1 week where your weight stayed the same, equally isn't necessarily a plateau. And remember, the thing about a plateau is everything else has to be spot on, right? So for example, if you had a plateau in your weight for 1 week and your nutrition was great, but that week you did way less steps, or instead of training 5 days, you only trained 3 days, you got to weigh up all those factors. So like if everything was spot on, training was on point, sleep was good, hydration was good, steps and expenditure was pretty equal to what you did the week before, and your weight stayed the same all week, it's probably time to bump food.
Yeah.
But if there's parts of that puzzle that weren't right, then you have to assess that, and it could go either way.
Yeah.
But I think that's where scale data has a lot of merit. And then, there's other factors too, like we track this stuff, but things like, for females, monthly cycle, bowel movements play a massive part sometimes. So like, these are all things that you need to keep an eye on, and why you should be tracking lots and lots of things, even in the off season, to get a bit of an understanding as to how your body responds to various systems.
Yeah. And sometimes weight movement may be really, really slow, but you're still making progress. So like one thing that with me, Scotty, is that photo that you posted on my back shot was only 4 weeks apart, right? And it was 800 grams of increasing weight? It was under a kilo. But the change is not night and day, but there's a big change there, right? So sometimes you can't always expect that you need to be pushing weight every single week in the off, like pushing your body weight up every single week in the off season. And as you kind of explained to me, and you maybe can touch on a bit more, Scotty, is, when you have the composition there, as long as your calories are of a decent amount, you don't need to be always pushing weight up to actually make gains.
Yeah, you need to weigh up what is the quality of that. So let's say if you're taking a slower, more controlled rate of gain, you may only be gaining 150 or 200 grams per week. But of that, let's say maybe a third of that is if it's new tissue, versus if you're gaining 400 grams per week, you still might be gaining, 50 grams of lean mass, but now you're gaining an extra 300 grams of fat mass, which you then have to spend more time off later, focusing on dieting that fat mass off, which is time that you could be gaining in a controlled state. I think too many people and you see it now all the time, like there's a lot of people that I see on social media and a lot of younger guys that are like, I'm 10 or 11 weeks out, and that they look like they're just about, in my opinion, they're probably ready to just start prep, like they've done their pre-prep phase. I'm like, you're nowhere near where you should be. And that's probably because you got like 25, 30 kilos over stage weight and you started prep in that state. You just got too fat, wherein it's just not necessary and it's not honest progression. For me, there's no point getting unnecessarily, fluffy if you don't need to. You want to find a body weight and a body composition that's conducive to the way that you feel. and the way that you perform, and also that isn't really drifting too far away from stage weight. Granted, everyone's different. Some people can afford to just stay, 15% or 12% over stage weight and they can feel good. And then there's other people like, technically when it's all said and done, I'll have spent, at one point I was over 20 kilos over my stage weight at my heaviest weight. And sometimes you need to go to that point, but you've got to weigh up the trade-off of that. And then is it hard? Like, let's say, MG, you've lost, a large amount of body weight in a short amount of time, and I'm able to do the same thing. So if you have to push up a little over 20 kilos over stage weight, but you know that you can wipe 6 or 7 kilos in less than 4 weeks, then for me, that's a trade-off that for what you can do at that weight in the gym, I think that's worthwhile. But if you're someone that then takes you 12 weeks to diet that off, then I would say there's no point in doing that. So I think it's unique to the individual, but I think these days too many people just get unnecessarily just too fat, to put it simply, because they're in an aggressive bulking phase, which is just an excuse to eat like an asshole and justify why you're doing it, versus you don't need to. Because from a physiological perspective, if you've got more, like if you're getting in 4 to 5 protein feedings and you're getting in a good amount of leucine with that, and you're getting that muscle protein synthetic response, you've got more than enough energy availability on board to be above where your maintenance baseline is, and you have enough sufficient fat mass on board as well, then you've got enough in the system, provided that you're training hard enough to elicit hypertrophy adaptation, in which case you don't need to be consuming crazy amounts of food and be gaining 500 grams per week. It's not necessary.
Yeah. I think too, yeah. So people tend to think my body weight needs to go up every single week. My calories need to go up every single week. I need to be a constant surplus. You really don't need as much of a surplus as what you think. As long as there is a surplus there and you're training really, really hard and you're consistent, you're going to make gains.
And that's the biggest thing that you just said there, that most people don't do. They don't fucking train hard enough.
Yeah.
And there's people that think that they train hard, and I guarantee if you go and train with someone that actually really trains hard, it's like, you don't fucking train hard. Like, if someone's going to give you $1 million if you found an extra rep, would you find a way to get it? Yeah, you probably would. You might find 4 or 5 more. Again, you're leaving constant progress on the table. So I think people just look for food to be the answer, but it's the training that provides the stress that elicits the adaptation. Like, yes, you need to get protein, you need to get enough food in, but I think people are placing way too much emphasis on trying to eat. Like, in a society now where we're so obsessed with food, everyone thinks that they need to eat more, rather than just focus on training really fucking hard and then eat 4 or 5 protein feedings and then watch your scale weight. If it's gradually going up on a week-to-week basis, and I would say, like, if you're gaining around about, depending on the individual where they're at in their career, someone like yourself who is an advanced trainer and an advanced gainer, you don't need to be making 400, 500 gram rate of gain increases, because if you did, you'd just be getting unnecessarily fat.
Yeah.
And there's just no need to do that. And you're not, never once have you said to me, oh, do you think maybe we should increase food? Because there's enough food going in, like perceived energy availability is good, sex hormones are good, training performance is good. We're seeing progression there, and we're seeing a nice gradual increase, which is awesome because it means that we're able to stay in that period of gain. And MG, another good example, this is your first fat loss phase since you competed in
April 22.
Up last year.
Yeah, like over a year, versus the amount of people that have to mini cut 2, 3 times a year, 4 times a year. You're just wasting time when you could be improving and getting better. So instead, just like less focus on how much food you can get in. It's almost like there's a status on, I can eat X amount or my calories are this high. As someone who has to eat a lot of food, it's in the improvement season. It's not like a holy grail or like a pissing competition. If I could eat 3,000, 3,200, 3,500 calories and make gains, I would much rather do that. And I'm sure you would attest to that, MT as well. MG, sorry, rather than eating 5,200, 5,400 because it sucks.
Yeah, completely. And I think what underpins all this is adherence and consistency.
Yeah. Which again, 90% of people aren't able to tick that box.
Yeah, especially in the off season. Yeah.
Everyone's looking for that secret formula when really it is just do the same things eat the same meals, sleep the same amount of time, train hard, and do it again and again, and then do it for a couple of years straight when you're not in a deficit, and you'll be amazed at the progress that you can make.
And Scotty just cemented why I picked MT as my husband, because you said sex hormones are strong. I was like, I knew I made the right decision.
Yeah, and mine are garbage at the moment. So
All right, so there was a couple of questions about tracking things precisely. So I'll read them and they kind of all cover the same thing. So one was, how precise is your weighing in a deficient? Sources, gum, Coke Zero, etc. Is that necessary? So that's one. So how precise do you have to be at weighing things? And there was another one. Okay. I'm currently 13 weeks out from my ICM bikini comp, and I'm starting to rely on sugar-free soft drink and coffee with equal to get by. What I have daily include pre-workouts, other supplements. They total about 48 calories. Is it an issue if I'm not adding these things to my meal plan? So obviously she's having these additional little things that are getting her by, but they're adding up to some calories and she's not putting it in her meal plan. And then the other question was, how accurate you need to be in your tracking when you're in a deficient? Do you track, gum and Coke Zero and all that kind of stuff?
well, it's 350 calories a week that you're not tracking. So over 10 weeks, that's 3,500 calories. So there's a half a kilo of mixed human tissue that hasn't been accounted for. Depends. I think it comes down to like, what are you content with? Are you okay if you come second and you miss out on one placing? Like, does that 50 calories make a difference? Maybe.
Mhm.
But equally, if you're going to do something, I think if you're going to do it properly, don't do it at all. Like you basically you're aware you're eating more calories than you are accounting for. So you're not adherent to what your plan is.
Yeah.
I think the big issue with this one, like the person that's written this, you know that there's 50 calories you're not accounting for. That's the problem. Like, account for it. If you just didn't know, or you just thought Coke Zeros didn't have any calories, or you thought gum didn't have any calories, and someone pointed it out to you and you started to track it, it's different. But if you know that you're, potentially 13 weeks of not tracking 50 calories, that's the bigger issue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, just say if you're on 1,450 calories, you're not. You're on 1,500.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, it's all relative in the sense that if whatever's on your meal plan is what you're having, plus 50 calories is what your daily intake is. If you want to have some gum, I don't personally chew gum, but if you want to have, like I'm drinking a sugar-free beverage now, but I still track that. And even a Coke Zero, like I still track it, even at 1.2 calories. Why would you not? I'd rather be a little bit the other way. I actually have a condiment allowance. I allow 15 grams of carbohydrate a day towards my sugar-free drink, Coke Zero, and then sometimes I'll have a sugar-free cordial. And it would be lucky if it ever totals above like maybe 30. But I track it as 60 so that I know that I'm staying within those confines.
Yeah. So track absolutely everything except for water and air, and be as accurate as you possibly can.
Yeah, then you can have the peace of mind that you've done everything spot on and you've left no stone unturned. Like, it's just
Exactly right.
why would you go through everything that you're going through, the training, the sacrifice, the diet, the hunger, to just leave 50 calories out? Like,
Also, too, is a lot of these like sugar-free cordials or extra little sauces that you're putting on. If you don't track them over time, you won't realize that you're adding a bit more because you're getting a little bit hungrier, and then all of a sudden that 48 calories ends up being 76 calories, ends up being 120 calories because a little bit more sauce because I'm being a bit hungry, or another extra bit of cordial, and then before you know it, if you haven't tracked it or you're not mindful of it, you're overshooting it. So track absolutely everything for sure. Okay, besides diet, what do you think is more effective for fat loss? HIIT, steady state, etc. So they're talking about not the diet, so activity of the cardio. We've kind of covered some of this, but do you want to go through it quickly, Scotty?
I think total energy expenditure is obviously one of the first ones. HIIT technically, if you were looking at employing like a sleep low strategy, so for example, if you're using HIIT to deplete muscle glycogen like of an evening, and then you go home, have a protein feeding, and then you sleep low, so you sleep in a low carbohydrate state, you're obviously going to be inducing lipolysis, you're oxidizing free fatty acid, and that is obviously beneficial. But equally, the trade-off to that is that it's a lot more fatiguing from a central nervous system perspective. If you do that in the morning, how does that then affect your training? How does it affect your recovery, etc.? And then if you're doing that session late at night, that's all well and good. But then if you wake up the next day and you're taxed and your performance in the gym, say you lose 10, 20%, you may then train with, say, missing out on, say, an extra 100 calories of expenditure. Maybe you're not taking your sets to complete or near momentary or muscular failure. And so then it's just all about the trade-off. So I guess everyone needs to find what works for them. I don't necessarily think that you should confine to just one or the other, but typically I think HIIT, for me, it's not really worth the trade-off. I think a few years ago, everyone was like, yeah, all for it. But I think steady state cardio, it's a lot less invasive. It's something that you can do. You don't get that same systemic fatigue that you will from HIIT. And equally, it can be used as a form of active recovery. I use it on my rest days. I sit on the bike for half an hour. I don't do that for energy expenditure. I use it as a form of just moving some blood around. My legs are really, really sore and I feel better afterwards and I have a bit of a stretch. And so I'd rather do that. If I did HIIT the next morning, I'd be fucked for the whole day. Like, yes, I'll burn more calories per unit of time. But again, the trade-off is I won't want to move around as much. I'll be tired. I'll feel worse. So I think I'll probably answer that without saying that you shouldn't necessarily confine. But I think you could do one or the other. But I think steady state's probably a better option in terms of how much fatigue that you accumulate, given that in a contest prep, it's all about managing. We talk about, giving and taking from each side of the fence.
So you want to expend energy, but for it not to increase fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to manage fatigue. So it's the intensity to fatigue ratio and that trade-off. And we're constantly in a battle of managing it. If I do this, this is what I'm going to get for it. But this is the recoil of what happens with that. It's like, and this is where we speak about the art of coaching, should you just linear diet the whole way through? In terms of fat loss, yeah, it's better. But in terms of, does that then hurt your performance? It does. Because obviously after a while, when you just constantly suck down, performance suffers versus you could give someone 2 days at maintenance, you bring them back to life for the next 2 days, they're training like an animal, they feel amazing. As a result of feeling amazing, there's greater output, an increase in NEAT. So I think you need to weigh all of those things up. It's never just really black and white, and especially when you start to get someone really lean, every decision has an opposing influence, and there's always going to be recoil. You sort of have to weigh up, what is I get this from doing this, but the trade-off is that I'm also going to accumulate that, and what is going to be better off, and then you need to make your decisions accordingly.
Yeah, I think one thing is obviously you don't go to one extreme where you do, something that is going to fatigue you. So like a lot of HIIT or anything like that. But also you don't go to the other extreme where you literally just mope around all day just to get your steps up. I think that's to be a happy medium in the middle where your energy expenditure still has some purpose and some intensity to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got like a couple of, I'd say for the most part, everyone's sort of steady state, but I've got a couple of people I'm using, short bursts, just 1 or 2 sessions per week at the moment, because as MT said, they're getting steps, but they're the least intense steps you've ever seen just because of their job, right? They're steps, but they're not working hard at all. So we're using just a couple of sessions a week just to make sure. I know that they're going to pump out 310, 320 calories in that 20 minutes on the cross trainer. And we're not even being super strict as like 30 on, 30 off. We're just like, go hard for a bit, back it off. Go hard, back it off. Don't worry about the timer. And, I know I'm getting a really good calorie burn versus I know what their steps are like. And, this person's a super experienced bodybuilder. And their normal daily steps are just very relaxed. So we're just trying to find a way to burn more energy. But equally, we are considering the trade-off, and we're not doing it 6 or 7 days a week, right? We're using it sparingly to produce a very quick result, and then we're moving on.
Yes, some people find HIIT motivating, like they enjoy it. So I'm okay to leave a session in there if they find it motivating, as long as it doesn't affect anything else.
Yeah.
Also, just like a little nuance thing, and some people might pick up on this, especially if you're a coach. Sometimes steps don't add up. So like I'll have a client that's doing a lot of steps and I'll be like, geez, they're doing that much steps. They should be getting more progress out of this. And then you ask them, what do they do for a job? What are you doing with your arms most of the day? And then some of them are like a chef, or they're like, they wash things and they're constantly just standing in a spot but moving their arms. So the little watch is ticking over, but they're not really expending any energy. So I've had some of those clients are like, I want you to put your watch in your pocket, or I want you to put your watch around your ankle. And you'll notice like, 5,000-ish step difference sometimes. You'll be like, well, there's a bit there. So sometimes just double check how those steps are actually being tracked also. Yeah.
I got a perfect example of that last night. I filled in and held pads for one of the gym's boxing classes. And I reckon I had 16,000 steps before the class started. I only did 30 minutes of it to help out, and I had 21,000. I literally took 100 steps for the whole class.
Yeah. I know when I wash my car that my steps go up because I'm just doing this with my hand, just wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
Let's get into some federation questions. There's a couple of them. So let's start with this one, Scotty, for you. Is Scotty competing natural or enhanced for IFBB?
Natural.
Natural, yeah.
As if anyone has to ask that. How would I do? Maybe this person doesn't know, but I wouldn't be able to compete enhanced and then just 2 weeks later cycle off and start competing as a natty again.
No, yeah.
No, but typically most people that do IFBB are usually enhanced.
Yes.
So that's fair enough.
So it's a fair enough question.
Yeah.
The next one was about, and we've discussed this before, but we'll cover it again. Does what the judges look for differ between states for ICN? So they said, between Victoria and New South Wales as an example.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. What we found just in this season A, it seems that it's more aligning a bit more, what I'm finding, especially across bikini and fitness. But then again, it just depends on what bodies are on stage and and just picking the best body that's there. But I've just found that normally in Queensland or New South Wales, you see a little bit more of a leaner bikini look. And we've seen that a little bit in Victoria this year, which is good. And then same within fitness that I've found also. So hopefully that's a sign that it's aligning, but there are some slight differences between them.
I think as well, Queensland, and it's for the guys as well, conditioning is very much rewarded. Like if you go to a Queensland show, you better be, like if you're a guy, you need to be top to bottom absolutely peeled. And equally the girls as well, like figure fitness, the girls up there, they're super razor sharp. So you need to have that conditioning. Whereas I think sometimes maybe in Victoria, we reward maybe a softer look.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. The other question was pros of doing Ballarat ICN show. Why would you do that show? And they're also going to be doing the ICN VIX. So what would be the pros of also doing that Ballarat show? I know we've covered it before, MG, because have you got some people doing Ballarat?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just I think I mentioned might have even been last episode. I said I got a lot of first timers, and they're all pretty nervous, and first time stepping on stage. And we just thought it's a very nice way to be able to do a show that's a little bit smaller without, the crowd being as big. Equally, I have seen some reasonably big regional shows, but, there's not going to be as many competitors typically. And just a really good way to get on stage, experience it, see what it feels like, see what it's like to pose in front of a crowd, in front of people cheering. And, it's funny because none of the people that I've got doing that regional show live specifically in that regional area. But it's just a nice way, especially if you look at the way the seasons are for ICN, it's just a nice way to kick off the ICN season for Season B as well.
Yep.
But yeah, for me, it's mainly first timers. I've got some competitors who are in the 45 plus group who for their first time competing as well, and that was just the decision for. And also, we're not going to stretch their season out all the way to the end of, like, say, the AMB Worlds, which is end of November. So we're looking to get a couple of shows done in a short period of time, so they can get back to a sort of more realistic lifestyle, having kids and all this sort of stuff.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
Then we've got a question. Will we be at the ICN Queensland show on the 24th of September and the New South Wales show on the 7th of October? Would love to meet you guys.
Fortunately, we won't be at either.
Sadly not.
Yeah, we have the AMB Victoria show is obviously the 24th, so that'll be the Vic show, and then the 7th is the big ICN show in Victoria.
Yeah.
7th and 8th that weekend, men and women, men on the Saturday, women on the Sunday. So neither of those, unfortunately, will be able to attend.
Yeah.
But hopefully there'll be an opportunity to meet you at some other events, potentially some posing workshops, which will be in Queensland later on in August.
Yes.
And New South Wales, well, MT and I will be up there in October, November. So,
yeah, and we'll be at every Vic show. So if you're traveling down to Vic, we'll definitely be there. We'll see you there. All right, let's finish off because we're getting to time. Let's finish off on post-comp stuff because we know that always helps a lot of people, because especially coming out of the back end of season A. So, post-show blues, reversing out, mental and emotional battles, any tips on how to handle it?
yeah. Can I go back one step and just ask one question, which is just for the people that are prepping now? I just got this one came through. It's like, is there any chance Scott can explain what is happening to me psychologically? I'm having a tough time at work. I'm deep in prep. I've lost a lot of weight and I'm finding it hard to process information and make decisions like I was 15 weeks ago, and my co-workers are not understanding where I'm coming from. Is Scott able to explain what's happening to me on a psychological level so I can relay that information in layman's terms to my co-workers?
So basically he's saying...
He's in the suck.
Okay, yes. He's in prep. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, deep in, more than 10 kilos lost already, halfway through prep, and just starting to feel the suck, as you mentioned earlier. And he's just trying to get a bit more of an understanding on what's actually happening. Why is it harder to, make a decision, to process information, to communicate and conversate in general,
Yeah, we refer to it as prep brain, but when you are in a suboptimal environment that is a prolonged period of energy deprivation, like a contest prep, your body, once you start to get leaner, has to, we have multiple systems that run through the human body, and it obviously costs energy. It costs ATP to facilitate these systems. So cognitive function, thinking, speaking, chain of thought, what was I just talking about? Things like that, when you have those moments, that costs energy. Now, you're obviously liberating a lot of energy towards your training, towards your steps, towards all of your bodybuilding endeavors. And so your body has to decide, and everyone is different and unique in terms of when this typically hits people. And there are some people that get brain fog worse than others. Like, I've had a client who, I won't name him, but he'll know when he listens to this podcast, who has been sat in the car out the front of my gym, and I'm sitting there for like 15 minutes like, what the fuck's this guy doing? And to the point, texting him saying, you coming in? And he's like, yeah, my session's not till blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, that was 15 minutes ago. And he's like, oh, I'm coming up right now. And it was literally because he was just, I don't know what he was doing, but
he had no resources left.
And so there definitely wasn't much energy being liberated toward that typical chain of thought. But it's very normal. Again, everyone experiences it differently, but the easiest way to dilute it to other people is that you are in an energy deficit and your body prioritizes the energy that it is onboarding towards a lot of the physical demands that are taking place within your day. And so cognitive function is not going to be completely, in the toilet, but there is going to be some recoil in the sense that you may not be as sharp as you usually would. So maybe just say that usually you guys all operate here and I'm operating up here. And now that I'm in prep, we're all operating on the same level.
Yeah, well put. Well put. I'm still at the same level as you guys. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Every now and then I like to come down and play with everyone else. But don't worry, guys, I'll be back up soon.
And I think the best thing that Scott said, which is important, it's like, this isn't a unique case. And like nothing wrong is happening to you that's not part of, things that normally take place during prep. It definitely affects some people worse than others. If you look at MT's prep, you wouldn't even know the guy was prepping, 2 weeks out from his show.
He does get more cuddlier though. Like he was.
Yeah, we were cuddling all the time. He definitely was more cuddlier.
Definitely. I like a good cuddle.
But you're still good for cuddles these days.
Yeah. Well, I'm probably a bit more squishier. It's probably nice.
It's harder to hug him now because his lats are so big now. When you try and get your arm around, you just do the one arm and the other arm stuck on that deltoid. It's
Now, you know what? I felt like in your last prep, you became more cuddlier, and you've just been cuddlier ever since.
Yeah, I think
you broke the cuddle back, and it's staying for good now.
Yeah, I think I said to you guys last time, it's like I think prep taught me to really focus on where I want to spend my energy.
Yeah.
And then I've just been a little bit more calmer coming at the back end because I'm just not letting things phase me. I'm just not spending energy on certain things anymore that
smart,
maybe bring me stress. So I'm probably just a bit more chilled out than what I was prior to that. So prep changed me for sure, in a good way.
It also helps to, I guess, really identify and highlight who are the people that really genuinely like care or like they support you, whether you're in prep, whether you're out of prep. Like we speak about your inner circle all the time, those that check in on you, that see how things are going versus those that if you're not doing what you would usually be doing in the improvement season, they're not necessarily taking an interest. So I think you can find out a lot about who are your inner circle when you do go through that, people that are supportive of that, potentially when you're having days where you're a bit more fatigued, people that go above and beyond to still be there for you and support you. Yeah,
it does make the biggest difference, and you learn a lot about yourself, but you also learn a lot about people around you during prep.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Sorry about that. Maybe we can get into the other one as the start of next one. But I thought that was probably a few people deep in prep now about that halfway mark who are like, I would like to hear that from someone else. But equally, someone who's going through it. Scott's in the middle of it himself now. It's not just like me and MT sitting here, fluffy and cuddly and all this energy saying, that it's normal to feel that way. Scott he mentioned at the start of this episode, it's the first week he's felt the suck too. So it's good to know that others around you are, experiencing similar things. Equally, it's like, you wouldn't know with Scott because, he doesn't really voice his concerns very often. But, having a conversation with your coach and just, speaking to people who understand what's going on is probably the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, definitely. All right, boys. We've got through about 10 questions. It's pretty good. And we had a little bit of a chat about some other things at the start. So we did pretty good. Again, appreciate everyone for asking questions. We'll definitely try to get through. I want to talk about education in maybe another podcast because we've got a lot of questions about, do we mentor people? What courses should I do? All that kind of stuff. So I think next potty we'd need to dedicate some time to discussing about that because we did get a couple of questions about that and a couple of private messages too.
Yep, sounds good.
Awesome.
And thanks to everyone as well that DM'd for the retreat. We were just having a look at the numbers before, so probably have to
do another one.
Yeah, we are going to do another one, but I was going to say we're going to have to shut it down. We're not taking on any more expressions for that, are we? Though, because it's already capped out. Yeah.
Like straight after the pod, and what's so amazing, and we're so grateful for it, is we didn't advertise this. It's literally we discussed on the podcast, we released the episode, it was mentioned in the description of the episode, and that was it. And everyone that inquired were obviously all supporters and listeners, which is absolutely amazing. And we really just going through the list now and just giving everyone all the information they need so they make a decision. So we're definitely going to have to do this again, and maybe some people may end up on the waiting list, to be honest. So it's really, really exciting, and obviously, we are so grateful for all your support, and we're also so excited about it too. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Pretty epic.
It's gonna be fun.
Mm-hmm.
All right, boys. Well, enjoy the rest of the day. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll chat to you soon.